Bird on, Bears fans. We're here for a Bears Victory Monday. I'm going to break down the positives of this team. We're also going to talk about some of the negatives of this team and then the outlook that Bears fans should have heading into the season. All that and more in today's hotel edition of the Windy City Breeze Sports Talk Live. Appreciate you guys for tuning in and rocking with us, man. Let's go. Now, of course, if you are new to the channel, hit that like button. Please subscribe to the page. So we do talk Chicago sports daily on this channel. It's the only channel to talk Chicago sports, how Chicago talks. So make sure that you get in tune with us, man. I do appreciate you guys for tuning in and rocking with your boy on today's very, very interesting episode of the Windy City Breeze, coming to you live from Vegas, out here doing a little bit of work. So, had to bring the show on the road. And if my camera was working for me, I would look a little bit better. But I'll fix that later. It is a Monday morning here in Vegas, so I wanted to get this content out to you before I got to head off and do the gig. Here's the thing, right? Yesterday, Bears get the dub. We got a Bears victory Monday over the Houston Texans. Bears win at 23-20. And yesterday, after the game ended, right, there was a lot of positives. There's a lot of negatives you could take away from the game. But I think the main thing that I saw on Twitter was how just dismayed this Bears fan base is, that the Bears, again, right, Justin Fields continued to struggle. The offensive line still has a couple of issues. I think they played better than most. I got to wait for the tape to come out, but there's still issue with some of that offensive line play. The Bears are allowing a ton of run, and this team is just struggling, and they're going to lose so many games, and this team is awful, and we're heading towards I need people to understand this. And I'm going to break down your positives. I'm going to break down your negatives, and we're going to break down what we saw in the game. But here's the thing at the end of the day. Our goal is not to see how this Bears team is going to play compared to every Bears year ever, every Bears franchise that's ever been a part of this team. Our goal is to see how this Bears team plays compared to last year's Bears football team. And should the game versus the 49ers have been as close as it was? No, 100% no. But here's the thing that you have to look to. At the end of the day, number one, you won. That's where you're starting this off. You won the game, Bears fans. We're 2-1. We're heading into this thing, into a game versus the New York Giants that is also very winnable. They're in a very similar situation as you, but where most teams had you finishing out 3-0. I'm sorry, where most national nerds had you finishing out 0-3 to start the year. You're 2-1. So let's start there. And then on top of that, there are actually positives that you can take away from the game that you can say, okay, that is an improvement upon last season. My first positive of the day is the Bears run game. The Chicago Bears have an ability to move the ball that is one of the best in the NFL right now. And that's not an exaggeration. The Bears are a dominant rushing the football team. And I know a lot of Bears fans say, well, that's what we've always been. That's what we've always been great at. Of course, we're good at running the football. Here's the thing. Just because something happened before, just because something is a part of our history doesn't mean that you don't want to utilize it. Remember all the Bears fans that were out there complaining that we weren't running the football enough under Matt Nagy? I remember that. And listen, I was right there with you. I agree with you. Let's now not complain that we're running the football not only well, but great. Great. We're running the football great. Now, I think that the run game, right, you love to see what Khalil Herbert did yesterday. Hopefully Monty's going to be okay. I think that's more of a negative. I'm sorry, I've got that listed under my Bears negatives. You lose David Montgomery yesterday. Hopefully he's going to be back sooner than later, especially in the contract year. You would really like to see him play, get back on the field and play quickly. But he looked like he was in some immense pain there. So we'll kind of see. But you have to see how Khalil Herbert stepped in, right? And here's the thing. That means that here's something for you, Bears fans. If Khalil Herbert's able to step in and do exactly what David Montgomery had done in weeks prior, and what he was continuing to do this week. That's a positive, not only for your run game, for your offensive line, because that means your offensive line is creating holes. That means your offensive line is creating lanes for these running backs to get through. That means your offensive line in Run Pro is one of the best offensive lines in the NFL. That is something to take away. That is a positive. I'm not saying there's not negatives. We'll get to the negatives. There's absolutely negatives. But I want Bears fans to understand this is not about this season alone. This is not about how this Bears team compares to the Bears of 20 years ago or the Bears of 10 years ago. This is about how they compare to the Chicago Bears this season and last season. So you got those two things, right? I really feel really good about this Bears run team, and it's something that they do really well. Whether it's something that you want to see them do, whether it's something you want to see more, right? Listen, I would love to see a great passing offense. I'm praying to see a great passing offense one day. I hope that Justin Fields can get us there. But at the end of the day, I want to see us win games. I want to see the Bears win games, or any of us complaining if the Chicago Bears run their way to a Super Bowl. And let's not say that teams don't do that, because we've seen San Francisco run their way all the way to a Super Bowl. Now, they didn't win it. Quarterback play would have helped there. But how do you get there? There's a lot you can do with the run game and a strong defense in here. And I think that's my next point, right? This Bears team, at least defensively early on, really coming out strong, really doing a good job. Getting after the football. The Bears are forcing turnovers, right? I still have some, I don't want to say concern. No, I have some concerns with the defensive line. I'm not going to say I don't. Because I thought there was a lot of times where you could have gotten pressure on Davis Mills yesterday and you just didn't. I thought there was a lot of times where you could have gotten to Davis Mills yesterday and you just didn't. I haven't broken down the tape yet because I'm on the go. But I do want to see kind of like where this team defensive line wise is going to be at. But at a minimum, right, they're forcing turnovers. They're getting the ball into the other hand, into our hands, right? And they're putting the offense back on the field. That's the most you can hope from this defense. I mean, the defense saved the game yesterday. Your defense is always ahead of your offense, and you'd rather have your offense starting to make more plays. But at the end of the day, your defense is putting you in a position to be in these games. Your defense is keeping you in these tough games. Your defense is keeping you in these games where, okay, maybe offensively we're not playing as well, but we're able to put the ball back in our quarterback's hands. We're able to put the ball back in our running back's hands, if you want to go with that, right? We're able to force these 3 and outs. Those are things that we weren't seeing last season. We were seeing a team that was continuing to get gashed all season. Now, are there some negatives on the defense as well? Absolutely. Defensively, the Bears' run game, or the Bears' defensive pressure against the run, atrocious. I mean, Dameon Pierce ran all over us yesterday, and that seems to be the theme of this team, at least early on, right? And I think it comes down to, like, how are you going to be able to tackle? Like, the Bears, here's the one thing that I can say. The preparedness of the Chicago Bears does not seem to be the issue. How many times yesterday did you see the Bears calling out the right play, lining up in the right position, beating the running back to the spot, beating the receiver to the spot, beating their man there, but just not being able to make the tackle? The Bears have to improve upon their tackling if they're going to play better, if they're going to start to win some of these games, right? Again, this is against the Houston Texans. I'm not saying that this is a huge win. You're 2-1 and you played Houston and you played San Francisco on a monsoon. I'm not saying that the Bears are dominating the game out here versus top tier teams. But what I am saying is that when I'm looking at this game from a positive standpoint, when I'm looking at this game for what it is based on what we had last season, the Bears are moving in the right direction, especially in preparedness. They're prepared for this. Now, you still got to make these tackles. You still got to wrap these guys up. And we're 3 weeks in, and I'm not going to lie to you. I don't think the tackling has improved in 3 weeks. That is an issue, right? And I think that's something that Flus will definitely get on him about. But you have to be in the position to make the play. And at a minimum, these coaches have this team prepared defensively enough to be in a position to make the play. That is a step in the right direction. Let's talk about the positives here on a Bears Monday. We can break down the negatives as well, but let's talk about the positives of this team. They are there. I know Bears Twitter doesn't want us to believe so, but I swear they are there. When I look at this Bears defense, I see a defense that, based on the teams we play this season, again, versus Aaron Rodgers, versus Josh Allen, versus who else we played that's like ridiculously tough this year. It's some interesting games. Maybe versus the Dolphins. I don't know if I've changed my stance on the Dolphins just yet, but they're playing pretty well. But versus your top teams, I'm not saying that this defense is going to come out and destroy everything, dominate the game. You know what I'm saying? Like, but it's about, you have to evaluate it based on where you are. This is a rebuilding team. This is a rebuilding year. This is a rebuilding season. And guess what? In a rebuilding season, you've got pieces that look pretty good on this team. Are there some negatives to go along with it? Yeah, Kyler Gordon and Kendall Vildor look like they're doing the Spider-Man meme on the field sometimes. That's a negative. I don't want to see that. It looks bad, is what I'm saying. But on the flip side of that, right, what can we say? Oh, well, yeah, this Bears defense as a whole is forcing turnovers. This Bears defense as a whole is getting pressure. They're not getting to the quarterback enough, in my opinion, but they're getting pressure around the quarterback. This defense as a whole is helping you win games and is putting you in a position to win games. At the end of the day, Eddie Jackson, pick six, or interception in the end zone off a beautiful tipped pass that goes straight up. Eddie Jackson comes down with it. And then on the other side, Roquan Smith, big interception there. And we saw the ball on the field all day yesterday. Bears forcing it. Weren't able to grab all of them, but forcing the ball to pop out. Those are positives. And yes, are they the same positives that we've heard from the Chicago Bears for 10 plus, 20 plus, 30 plus, 40 plus years? Absolutely. But they're positives. It's okay for us to do the things that we've always done well. That's not a bad thing, Chicago. That's not a bad thing to see. That's not a bad thing to see. It's not a bad thing to see your offense run the ball for, hold on, let me make sure I got this number right. Let me make sure that I got this. It's not a bad thing to see your offense run for 281 yards. Now, what is bad? 82 passing yards. We can talk about that as well. Let's get to the negative, man. Let's get to some of the negatives. Justin Fields is a negative. Justin Fields looked bad. He looked like he tried to force a couple of shots in there. He's 8 for 17, 106 yards, threw 2 picks. Another low QB rating. He looks bad. He knows he looks bad. You know he looks bad. I know he looks bad. He looks bad. And the plays are there. And you heard him in his post-game show, post-game press conference breaking down where he wanted. He was trying to force the ball in there to Mooney to get him on that. Listen, that is a keyhole pass if you're able to make that. You're not there yet. You're hitting the doorknob right now. That's a keyhole pass. And so for me, I'm looking at this whole thing and I'm saying, okay, listen, Justin Fields has to improve. But we're not in week 17. We're in week 3. Do we expect this football team to be the same football team in week 3 that we do in week 17? If we do, we have the wrong people in place in the building. And I don't believe that we have the wrong people in place in the building because I see the preparedness of this Bears team. I see that they're prepared. Even, listen, whether you like it or not, they're prepared offensively as well. Are they prepared to pass the ball great? They're not. They're not. What are they prepared to do? They're prepared to run the ball. And they're prepared to run the ball well. And they're prepared to run the ball some more. And this offensive line is prepared to run the ball. And I think another negative to me, and it's something that the Bears have continued to do. And I'll tell you this right now, man. The one of the biggest negatives to me on this offensive line, Sam Mustipher is not good. Olin Kreutz can sneak up on me all he wants. If y'all saw Olin Kreutz pop up over my shoulder right here, I'm sorry, bro. He's not good. He continued. I believe he's fumbled, if I'm not mistaken, in every single game this season. Has he caused a fumble in every single game just from snapping the football this season? He's not good. And so for me, right, I think that's another thing that I really am trying to look at and say, okay, how does this team get better there? Well, that's health. They've got a guy that they can bring in. They've got a guy that they have in the building that can play pretty well for them, and that's Lucas Patrick. But I hate that they're rotating him in at the guard. I feel like it's doing him a disservice. I feel like it's doing Tevin Jenkins a disservice. I feel like it does this offensive line a disservice in pass pro. I feel like it disrupts the pass pro more than anything on this team. I feel like it's one of the biggest issues that the Bears have this season, offensively. And so for me, right, listen, there's a ton of negatives to take away from yesterday's game, especially on the passing side of the offense. And I'm not just saying it's just the offensive line here. While I say the offensive line definitely plays a part in it, am I saying that the offensive line has some issues? Listen, Braxton Jones was getting bullied on a couple of plays yesterday. He just was. And he's somebody who's played pretty well for us. But I'm not going to be blind to what I'm seeing on the field. At the end of the day, the offensive line is bad, but guess what? Justin Fields was just as bad. There were some plays where that offensive line in pass pro did an excellent job creating a pocket, holding up, giving Justin time. What was the issue? Were their receivers open? Some plays there were, some plays there weren't. Some plays Justin missed them streaking down the sidelines. You know, I think it was, what was that second pick? I think it was the second pick he threw where Cole Kmet was his first read on that one. On the other side, Equinemius is streaking down the sideline. Justin says, well, Cole's my first read. Well, I hate to tell you this, bud, but you missed your first read. And he did. He said it. He said, I just missed him. But there's times to me, right, where you want to see your quarterback make the big play, take that big play ability. And I feel like there's multiple times in multiple weeks where I said this. You got to learn from these mistakes. You're missing wide open players streaking down the sideline that Luke Getsy is scheming open for touchdowns. Guess what? We look at Luke Getsy. I'm sure there's a lot of people that look at Luke Getsy's game plan right now and say that that's an issue. We need to be better on that. We're not doing enough on that. We're not playing good enough on that. I'm sure there's a lot of people that are saying that, right? But at the end of the day, on the flip side of that, right? What's the opposite of that? Justin's got to go to those guys. Justin's got to hit EQ. And it's multiple weeks that we've seen him miss him on that. You got to learn from your mistakes. I'm not judging Justin on a season-long basis, no matter what anyone says, right? There's a lot of people out there that want to judge him based on what people are doing their first day in the NFL. There's a lot of people that want to judge him based on what people are doing their first pass in the NFL. Oh, this guy came in and he was able to kill it. Well, what was his situation? That's the main thing that you have to look at when you're making those comparisons, right? What was the situation? Pat Mahomes came in right away. What was the situation for Pat Mahomes? Oh, he was on an AFC title team? Oh, yeah. You added him to that? Right? Like that's the part that people don't look at when they look at this team. You want to compare. I'll say this, right? I'm still not a huge believer in Tua, but if you're going to compare him to anybody, and it sucks to say, right, but you have to compare him to what's around him. You have to compare him to what's happening on the field for him, just like you had to compare it to Tua. Guess what? Tua has better weapons around him right now. They're winning. That's one thing I said. I don't know how much better Tua's looking, but they're winning. He be slanging it in there sometimes, but he still feels a little Mitchish to me. I don't know. Maybe it's just me. Or it could be like the 18 of 20 passes. I don't know. But I think that the main thing, and this is kind of what I've talked about, what's been the focus of this for me, right? What Bears fans need to focus on in this whole thing is not the long term, but what is this team going to be based on what's in the building that is less than what we had last year. And I'll tell you this right now. This Chicago Bears team right now looks better than that team looked last season. This Chicago Bears team right now looks leaps and bounds better than what was on the field last season. Pat, how can you say that? What are you seeing that we're using what works? We're in the right position. Now you still got to make the play. You still got to make the play. But in 3 weeks of football, they're prepared. They look like they at least understand what's supposed to be happening on the field. Now, whether they're making the play or not, that's a difference maker. That could be a talent issue. That could be levels of talent, right? But they look like they belong on a football field. They look like they have something. This run game looks like it's one of the best run games in the NFL. And guess what? It is. That's not a bad thing, Chicago. Does our passing game got to catch up? It's got a long way to go. It's got a long way to go. But you're not going to make me and the other Bears fans that feel good about this win. And I'm not saying great. I'm not saying we feel like this team's going to the Super Bowl. But guess what? We're 2-1. And our schedule doesn't get much tougher than this. I think we've got one legitimately tough stretch all season, and it's like 3 games. Your schedule doesn't get much tougher than this, Chicago. So while we're at the beginning of this thing, it is what it is. There's going to be some things that you got to work on, some things you got to fix, but guess what? It's the beginning. It's not the end. We are 3 weeks into the season. We are going to be okay. That I promise. And it's about how are you improving, not based on where the Bears are for the last 10 years, last 20 years, last 30 years, whatever it is. It's about how you improve based on last season. And in 3 weeks, I can absolutely say I've seen improvement based on this Bears team last season. Now, as always, man, I want to know how you guys feel, man. Let me know in the comments below. I'll be down there talking with you as well. My plan is to be hopefully live tonight. Depends on how good this internet is. You might have to get another pre-recorded video. But we'll see where life takes us. But I appreciate y'all for tuning in. If you haven't done so, hit that like button, subscribe to the page. We do talk Chicago sports daily. Focus on the now, Bears fans. Focus on what we're getting now. Focus on what we can accomplish now. Not what this Bears team has been for the last 10 years. This is an entirely new regime, entirely new system, entirely new football. Whether it's new to us or not. That's what you got to focus on. As always, man, it's your boy Pat the Designer back at it again, man. Y'all stay safe out there, Chicago. To continue watching our Chicago Bears content, click the links on the screen or check the links in the description below. Y'all stay safe out there, Chicago. Peace.